Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our new friend, KJ Murphey. We're here to break down To Valhalla and everything in between. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to break down this awesome Viking horror. Dude, I loved it. I've seen some of these interiors, and it's hitting all the right notes for me. But before we dive into that, let's start off with the basics of who you are and how you got into creating indie comics.
Yeah, so I've been around for a little bit, and I grew up primarily with 70s horror mags and 80s comic books, Marvel, DC. I started in all that, but I always gravitated towards more of the independent stuff. I went to my first comic. I went to a comic book collectors club in middle school, and that's how it really started. I met my best friend there, and he was into kind of monsters and crazy stuff, and I liked that stuff too. So we were making our own comic book together, and then I went to a comic book store for the first time called Magic Horn. It kind of sounds awfully weird, and it was in this guy's basement. And
it gets weirder.
Oh yeah, no, it smelled like laundry and old newsprint. It was heavenly, it was really wonderful. And he had a lot of great, so I got introduced to Mirage Studios and Teenage Ninja Turtles and a bunch of Eclipse books. So I got into all that stuff pretty early on, and so I was just going there religiously and buying comics and kind of keeping up with Marvel and DC, but not as much by the 90s. They got into all that collectible, different covers, and Image came out. And initially I was very involved with Image the first year and collecting all those books and all that hype, around certain creators. And then, I went to my first comic book show. Before there was New York Comic Con, there was these, there was Big Apple, but before Big Apple, there were these other creator shows. And I went to some of those back in the late 80s, early 90s. And, I was thinking, okay, well, I'll just finish this high school thing and become a comic book artist. It seemed so simple at the time. So it's just kind of tooting my own horn, thinking I was, I was going to learn as I go, and it wouldn't be a big deal. I would just, follow the path of all my heroes, the comic book creators. And so that's kind of how it started. And so I went to art school. I should probably mention that. After high school, I went to art school just to pacify my family, and they wanted to make sure I did something, which was smart in hindsight. And I ended up graduating from a 4-year art school with big comic. So while I was in the art school, Para College, I met Frank McLaughlin, and Frank McLaughlin kind of became my unofficial mentor. So he inked a lot of DC books. He was around for the Charleston days, so he was part of comic book history, actually. Really lovely guy.
That's priceless experience. Holy crap, man.
No. So I had a couple classes with him. I learned a lot from him. He kind of inspired me. Everyone in the room was goofing off, not taking it seriously. I was drawing my pages, and he would stop everyone and say, that guy's gonna, he pointed at me and said, that guy's gonna make it because he's the one taking it serious. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna make it, he said. I'm like, but what is it, what does that really mean to make it, right? Sort of what does it mean to be successful? So it's sort of kind of whatever you make it out to be. And so at the time, my dream was just to make my own comic or get into the comic book industry. And so I graduated. I had a portfolio, and I started sending it out to everybody, Marvel, DC, anybody that would. So I probably sent about 60 submissions out, and I got a lot of rejection letters. I did. I think Marvel hit me back with, fix this, this, and this, and then after you've done these things, submit to us again. And that with hundreds of, it seemed like thousands of other no's kind of made me think, well, I'm just not ready or whatever.
Yeah.
So
how did that feel though, coming fresh out of fresh out of school like that and hitting that had to have been kind of a bummer.
Oh, it was a bummer, because I not only took the time to learn all about art history, and learn all about how to paint really well, type painting. I came from a school of photorealistic painting, hyperreal. One of my teachers was a guy who does paintings now for Time magazine, Tim O'Brien. So I learned how to paint from him primarily, and so I could paint. I can use watercolors. I am pretty proficient in all these other things. But, my passion was comic book making. I just wanted to tell stories, really. I had all these ideas, and I had a couple that stuck with me, and I pitched them. I'd go to these shows every year and show them, the pages to people, and they were like, a nice kid, but you need to work on this, or, yeah, I don't think this is for us, So it was just constantly And you're talking about now mid '90s to late '90s, which isn't a good time to get in the comic book industry because it's falling apart basically. Comic book stores are closing everywhere. You know what I mean? Diamond's suddenly the only place to get comics, and so it just wasn't the best time probably. So fast forward to the 2000s, I think late '90s, I was like, I got to get involved in something. I got to do something. There's got to be a place for up and coming artists and writers that get together and help each other, get a name out, and I couldn't find anything at the time. So I was like, I'm just going to build something myself.
I love
Why
it.
not? So I coined the phrase Comic Book Artists Guild, CAG, I called it. And I had my first meeting with a couple friends and a couple other kids at a massage parlor.
Goes from underground basement comic books to massage parlors.
So people were getting like hardcore Swedish massage in the back, and we were all sitting in a room together and just
geeking out. I love it.
Talking about comics and what we wanted to do. And I did that for years. I was in charge of it, and at first it was a lot of fun, and we made an anthology every year, and I started that way, and then it got more intense by the fifth year. We're topping close to 300 members, different states: Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, and then I think out west we had a couple of folks in Nebraska, and then even overseas we had people. And so it was really becoming this thing. We had a West Coast contingent that kind of, unfortunately, it became kind of this rule of 300 where there's just too many people, and I created a leadership structure where there was about 10 of us that would meet every week on Skype primarily and talk about what issues the group was having or how we make, planning and all that. And it worked for a while, but around my 10th year, I just got burned out on it, and I really wanted someone else to take over. And there was a few people that were kind of groomed to take it over. And, I stepped out. And unfortunately, when I stepped out, a lot of people were just attached to me. They were used to me. And the whole thing kind of started falling apart for different reasons.
Oh, that sucks.
It was more than just me, but I kind of needed to focus on my own thing and let other people step up. And some people did step up, and it did keep going for a while. And then eventually it fizzled out to a point where people were just going to New York Comic Con to share a table. That's all it became. And then, even after that, it was, not worth it at some point. We weren't making books anymore. And I just went full throttle by 2000, I want to say 2009, doing Guildworks Publications, which is me and my partner, Hector Rodriguez, making his book, Hell's Blood. So that was the first book a series that I actually tackled with Hector. And at the time, he didn't feel like he was a very proficient storyteller. He's a very detail-oriented guy, and I'm more of a page composition kind of guy. So together, it was like this 1-2 combo. And we worked on the first book together, and he became really confident in his skills after that. So by the
it's a game changer when you get that first book done, huh?
Oh yeah, no, it's a shot in the arm. We have this book. We're proud of it. Going to shows with it. It's in an issue 1, and it had a nice cover, and then it led to issue 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we had a trade, and then we just didn't get around to book 6, and that's a whole nother thing. But Hector's actually back on it now, working on it now, all these years later, which is great. But that's what started the whole thing. I finally did my own book. I should also mention, I don't just do comics. I went to school for art therapy. I went back to school after art school years later, deciding to get a master's in art therapy, and with a plan of becoming a counselor, a licensed counselor. So
can you give us a little bit about that? Because I keep hearing about art therapy without having, I guess, a more deeper understanding of it.
Yeah, so art therapy is one of those modalities that if you can't do traditional talk therapy, like with a kid, let's say, a kid that doesn't want to talk about their feelings, you create a safe place for them to come in, and they're comfortable drawing pictures. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So if they were in an abuse situation where, something scary happened, I'd ask them to draw the scary thing. And they don't have to talk about it, just draw it. And they would draw a building on fire, and then, maybe people outside. Even it could be rudimentary stick figures. It doesn't have to be about the aesthetics of art. It's not like I'm correcting the kid saying, no, that's not how you draw a house, kid. That's not how you draw people.
You're traumatized. Get better with this drawing.
Yeah, no, it's more about getting expression out. So that's the whole concept behind art therapy. So art therapy was developed like in the 50s in the state hospitals. At the time, these women were coming in and helping patients create things. And it was initially very unstructured And then they started creating directives. So there's directive and non-directive approach. Directive approach is draw your family, draw your house, draw a person, draw a tree. And then you are trained to interpret these drawings. Okay, well, the house has a sideways chimney and there's smoke in the chimney. So that means there's some kind of trauma, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Or, there's a hole in the tree. So that means there's something, there's something.
That goes like on such a deep level. I would have never
very
guessed.
It's very symbolic. Yeah. You get trained to kind of look for indicators like an owl in the tree, or, this person's drawn without hands. That means they're helpless. So there's a lot of that kind of symbolism, and you get trained to do all that. Look at that art that way, and it's pretty valuable. So I basically.
Do you ever look at like other people's art and kind of like look for that stuff in it,
funny,
or does it not work like that?
I don't do it with like people's like comic book projects as much. It's more like. These art therapists have an association, Art Therapy Association of America, and they have these conferences. So I went to a few, and at the conferences, of course, because there's a lot of artists there, they're all making pictures together, right? And then you hang it up. And then so like I made a picture and I hung it up next to all these other pictures. I'm like, oh shit. Excuse me. I don't know if I can.
No, you're good. You can just.
I'm like, I can't, I just put my art up next to all these. How many people are going to analyze my drawing and find something wrong with me? Or I'm looking at theirs kind of like, well, those are kind of screwed up too, So, I think there's sort of this misconception around mental health and therapy in general that, if you're going to therapy, you're a weak person, or that there's something wrong with you. Instead of looking at it as an additional resource where it's actually to your benefit to check in with somebody and make sure you're okay.
Well, because you can have a tool that I don't know about, and then you could teach me that tool, and then I'm able to work through my stuff easier,
Right.
Like you can provide that bridge that I need. I was curious because like to me, it almost would be like, since it's so ingrained within like your head, like when you're like just looking at comics, you're like, oh crap, this person's going through this. Like,
well, if it's a theme, yeah, if you see the theme and you kind of go, wow, this person has mom or dad issues, or this person, is really, really a downer, or they're morbid, it's, like an emo kind of thing. I guess everyone has their projects. I guess the music is the same way, kind of.
So how did we end up leading to your own project, though, Road to Valhalla? How did we start seeing those steps begin?
So what happened was I did, God, it had to be almost 10 years ago. I decided it was time to double down and invest in myself. And I had this story to tell about a kid in present day that finds this, she's in trouble with the Russian mob, and she stumbles across this creature who saves her, and it turns out to be a Wendigo. And it turns out that this guy did something really horribly bad in the past. He wronged these Indians. He's like from King Philip's era, so you're talking 1600s. And he becomes this creature, this Wendigo, which is a Native American folklore about a person that turns into a monster and is cursed. It's sort of like a werewolf vampire kind of amalgam. And wakes up in present day and has to, has to help this girl. And it's not about ending the curse. It's kind of a redemption story. It's a one shot. Did it in a painterly style, full color, labor of love. Took me forever to do. 60 pages. Finished it, printed it. Okay, now I'm done my book, right? And I thought that was the end of that book. And then years later, like 4 or 5 years later, John, who's a good friend of mine, John Escobalas, who's a writer, was like, yeah, we should do something else with that. I was like, yeah. And he was really into Vikings and stuff. I was like, well, how about a Viking story with Wendigos? And he was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And then we could throw in some UFOs and the Bigfoot and all these other things. And I was like, yeah. It's like, I did one of those, you can tell when I'm not keen on something, right? Because I've known this guy.
You just took that wheel and just went full turn with it.
No, you know what? So like years ago, I started laying out these pages, and it included the aliens and spaceships and the Bigfoot idea, and the Indians and the Vikings, and it was just too much stuff. And I did about 8 or 9 layouts, and I said, dude, this is just too much. My head, I can't do this right now, And I said, let's like revisit this later. And it must have just stayed with him, because I kind of moved on and we did other things. I mean, we did anthology books and we did short stories, but we came back to it a year before COVID. Like, how about we just do a Viking story with just the Wendigo? And he was like, yeah, great idea. I'm like, good. Okay, let's lose the rest of it. Let's lose all the other. And then as soon as he agreed, he's like, yeah, that makes sense. Good idea. So then, so suddenly he's fleshing. We go back and forth with ideas. And this is just before COVID happens now. It's had to be January or February. I get really sick actually, and I probably had COVID and didn't even know it before they told us all to stay home. And John's just a sweet guy. You know, he's an amazing person. You should probably interview him. He's got all kinds of stories. But John was like, you know what, man? And I said, dude, I'm not feeling well. They're telling everyone to stay home. He was like, you know what, dude, just stay home, work on this Viking thing, start fleshing out all the Vikings, start drawing what these people look like. I said, yeah, man, that's it. So I had this time. So I started really putting a lot of effort into concept art, refining the thing with him. We had a story. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to start laying out these pages. And they all felt right. Every page I drew, these little thumbnails based on, he does thumbnails too. And they all look good.
Do you do it traditional or digital?
Traditional. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I did. I just started sketching it out on tone paper and kind of indicating where the light would be, almost putting too much time into a little thumbnail, like a bigger thumbnail, almost like small mini page. And having fun with it and feeling like we started off on the right, how the story begins. And so then I was like, dude, we should, look, because we have the time, we should look into crowdfunding this, because I really don't want to keep spending my own money on all these things. It's just not economically feasible. And so I get involved with Tyler James Comics Tribe group, and I learn all about I learn about Kickstarter specific. So now I'm drawing the pages for Road to Valhalla 1, and I'm learning about Kickstarter at the same time.
And Kickstarter's like its own beast too.
Oh my God, so I had all these months of learning about it, preparing myself for a launch, and at the same time working on these pages. I wanted the pages drawn and finished before I even mentioned that we were crowdfunding this thing. And finished the pages, and John and I felt good about the story, so had the pages colored and launched the thing like that fall, like November 2020, November 2020, or I think that's when I did it. And that was sort of how we started, with this book one, talking about this small group of Vikings that kind of are on a task to find out what happened to this Viking settlement. And that's how the story begins. They get to this Viking settlement and it's abandoned. And the leader of the Viking group is the brother of the other brother. There's two brothers, and one is sort of the chieftain's favored son. He's next in line to become the next ruler of this clan. And we don't talk about specifics because it's a Viking slasher, book. It's not about getting into all this history and all this stuff. We weren't looking for historical accuracy 100%. We wanted to look and feel like it was at this time. And so these Vikings get there, and they find this settlement abandoned, and the Indians, the local indigenous people, are there and explain that these Wendigo things came in and killed a lot of them, and didn't tell them what else happened to the rest of them. But essentially, through the story, you find out in book two, at the end of book one into book two, that some of the Vikings that were there first became these Wendigo.
Oh God. Is there any difference between like the Wendigos from the indigenous people compared to the Vikings, or are they kind of just like similar?
So what my thinking was that like almost a zombie or a vampire or a werewolf, that you retain some of your humanity, mostly you're animalistic, but there's sort of pieces of your personality that stay. So like if you were a real snake in the grass, backstabber kind of person, you're going to do that as the creature, you know. But if you maintain some of your humanity, the good qualities, like being a good person or a leader, that will come through, and you'll have some resistance to it. So the main character is Erik. It's his journey. Road to Valhalla is about him, his path towards getting to Valhalla. Valhalla is a special place where only the chosen in battle go. It's knee deep, neck deep in Viking mythology. So basically, that's where you would sit at the drink from the best wine with Odin and all these other people and all these great warriors. So that's what Erik wants, but he's cursed because he's become this Wendigo, and he's not fully turned. He's kind of half turned. He's maintained some of his humanity, and his brother Bran is the one who's looking for him. Bran is sent over to find Erik, and what happened to Erik.
That is such an interesting conflict for him to be in. Like, he's cursed and he wants to go to Valhalla, and it's kind of impeding his journey. Yeah.
So, without giving the whole thing away, Erik is put to the task in the third book,
Mhm.
and there's a final confrontation, and you find out what happens to Erik, Bran, and all the other people in the group, and a lot of them don't make it, unfortunately.
Hey, that's good for a horror slasher, though. That was yeah.
That was the intention. I said, John, I don't care. I don't want to get attached to these characters. They all have to die, right? Oh yeah, they're all going to die, but somebody has to live to tell the story. It's a big deal. So. Yeah.
So who is the creative team involved in on this? If you want, and like I said, when we go through the Kickstarter, we can kind of deep dive it a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. No, so the primary people involved in Guildworks is my good friend, one of my best friends, Hector Rodriguez. He's the art director. So he's been doing the covers for us exclusively. So he does all the primary covers. I've been doing the alternative covers. And then John Escobalis is the writing. He's the main writer. And he's the kind of editor of everything. So, John does a lot of the storytelling, and Hector does a lot of the visuals, and then I'm the page turning illustrator in this story, and I contribute to the character development and the story. It's not like he just does a story and I don't have a say. I tell him what I like or don't like, and with dialogue, if something doesn't look right, I'll say, maybe we should add this or get rid of that. And so that's how it's been going. And then Mindy Lopkin, who's been around, I met her in the CAG days as well. She's the letterer, and she does all the pre-press for us for the book. And
that's so awesome, like how everyone from your group is involved on this.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. It was almost like it had to happen that way.
Yeah.
I needed a core group of people I trust, that I've worked with and that I was friends with before I started doing all this stuff. And I got really.
Were they all like higher up in the group as well? I know you said you had like leaders that met like on a weekly basis. Were any of them like any part of the leadership?
Hector kind of did a lot of the leadership with me.
That's really
after
cool.
I stepped down, and then I was working with Chris Buckner, who was also one of the CAG leaders for a while. He's a really great writer too. John was never really in the group, but he would go to some meetings. He would be at some shows. He would go out to dinner with us and
get the free pizza. I get it.
Yeah, no. John would show up. John would show up and kind of get more involved. Actually, John is a pretty interesting guy. He's a martial artist, Krav Maga teacher, and so I was actually not doing comics with him. I would just come to his house and train with him. So we were training together, and then we would spend more time talking about comics, and and I would learn all these great things about comics with him because he's very read and very well versed in comic book creators. And so John is kind of a wealth of knowledge, and John has a million ideas. It's just a matter of picking one and sticking with it. He kind of has comic book ADHD a little bit, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And
no, absolutely.
Then we have Sean Lee, who I'm very fortunate to have as the colorist. He's from Asia, I believe, and he's really just his coloring choices and textures really match really well with my art style. And I'm more of a pictorial, loose kind of artist. I'm not a very tight, detail-oriented artist. And, but thankfully, Sean was able to work with my art, and add to it. You always want somebody to kind of take it to the next level and make it look better than it. So thankfully, with Sean, we had another colorist, Leonardo, but he had to leave after the first issue. So there was a little bit of a transition from book 1 to book 2. That was probably the biggest snafu for us, was finding another colorist. But we got very lucky with Sean Lee coming on board and staying for book 2 and book 3. And actually, as far as I'm concerned, anything we do in the future, if Sean wants a crack at it, although our next book is probably not going to be color, it might be black and white, but I'm sure we'll find use for Sean.
No, absolutely. Yeah, so speaking of book 3, let's go ahead and check out the Kickstarter for it. And so everyone watching, right here is a link to check this out with us. If you're unable to back, simply sharing this on Facebook or Twitter is 100% free. Word of mouth is 100% free, and it's one of the greatest tools you can have. Share it with your friends, your family. You're going to have someone who is going to love this. We are looking at Road to Valhalla, issue number 3, Supernatural Viking Horror Epic, a 32-page tale of Vikings facing off against Wendigo. This is the final battle for the Road to Valhalla, complete series issue 1, 2, and 3. Currently at 2,436 of a 2,500 goal. So you're like right there. You're like right on the finish line, man.
It's a nail biter. It's a real nail biter.
12 days to go though. 12 days to go. So I mean, that's like what? Like
we should be lucky.
Yeah, 64 bucks around to get, I think. Yeah. So guys, we can make this happen today. 65 backers with 12 days to go. Let's go ahead and check out this video real quick. some meaty riffs right there, some meaty chugging. I love it, man.
Yeah. Are you a musician?
I used to a long time ago, but now I got 3 kids, so more of a musician of children.
Gotcha. Oh, no,
So
that's tough.
we are looking. It can be a handful. It can be a handful, but thankfully they all like playing video games, so that's like half the battle for me.
Perfect.
We are currently looking at Road to Valhalla. It's the beginning of the end of the Viking Age. So welcome to Valhalla. Over the past 2 years, we have successfully funded issues 1 and 2 of Road to Valhalla, and now we are back on the Kickstarter to fund issue 3, which will finish the story arc of the series. So this is a Viking horror comic about a reluctant Viking prince, Bran, who is tasked by his father, the Chieftain, to find what has happened to his older brother, Erik, who leads a settlement in the outlands. And things are about to get grim. Holy crap. I love this cover too. Is this his brother or?
No, that's just a random Wendigo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I love this design though. This is pretty gruesome looking, man. Give us a little bit about some of the inspiration that went behind this.
I can't take any credit for it. It's all in Hector's mind. Hector Rodriguez has drawn some really badass, very violent and scary stuff. And he's online as Hero, Hero, but his stuff stops people. Like whenever we go to shows, like he'll have this tower of all his art, and he does a lot of those combining different elements of characters, kind of like smash up, whatever you call it. And but he's been doing it for years, and he just he does really beautiful details, and he really gets into it, and a lot of people just want to like check out his stuff. So
yeah, it's brutal.
That's all Hector. Yeah.
So right here are some of the rewards as well. So for $8, you can get the standard print. Take the test drive with just issue 1. So this will be for issue 1. For $15, you can get issue 1, 2, and 3 digital. So this will be the full package. So only doing 3 issues with this. Are you going to be doing like any sort of like trade paperback with it?
So there is talk with John and I so there's deluxe issues where we have a bunch of prose stories, like stories that happen with these characters outside of this universe, and there's a lot of concept art, and we're talking about maybe collecting them into a trade at some point next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so we can get issue 3 physical at $24. And this will also include digital copies of all 3 issues. So that's awesome. You include the the digital catch-up with the physical as well.
Oh yeah.
And then you can get all 3 digital deluxe books. So this is going to include extra concept art and prose for diehard fans. And also include digital copies of Battle at Granny's House and a Feeling Field Guide. So give us a little bit about those 2.
So yeah, it's sort of funny because a few years before COVID happened, John and I were talking about doing some other books other than just this dark kind of scary stuff. So we don't have a lot of children's books, and so that was where that kind of was born. So we did the Battle at Granny's first, which is still kind of scary, kind of getting over your fears, having sort of rules and that kind of thing. You can actually download it for free on our GWP Comics website. If you join our subscriber list, you get a free download. You can actually read that book for free. But that's how Battle at Granny's happened. It's a one-shot book. And then out of that came Feelings Field Guide. So I thought it would be cool to have a book for people in the mental health field to have in their office for kids that have a hard time identifying feelings and using these monsters. So think Dungeons and Dragons, old school monster manual meets therapy guidebook kind of thing.
That's so cool. Is that some of your art therapy coming out to play?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I had fun making these creatures, and I had a few guys do it with me. It wasn't just my art. It was Bern Negron and Brian Brindley, a couple of friends of mine, came in and helped me draw some of the creatures. And I'd like to do another book for each of them at some point, but we've been so busy with the Road to Valhalla, I've had no time to revisit that stuff.
So we can get standard print books of issue 1, 2, and 3. Get all 3 standard prints of the Road to Valhalla for $36. That is so awesome. You also get a RTV hologram sticker and trading card, plus all 3 digital deluxe copies and more. So, man, this is awesome. And I also see something torn. So is this another?
That's just a placeholder for the trading card. I don't think the trading card's going to be, but that is the cover to the original torn book. I got you. That was the original Wendigo book, the prequel book. Well, no.
Yeah, that thing looks brutal too.
Yeah.
So we have the standard and the KG Murphey variants at $55. So are these your variants right here?
So yeah, there are two covers that when you put them together, it creates the one image. And
Are
what
these
it has-
the brothers?
No, it's the Indian tribe on one side, and then it's Erik on the other
Hmm.
side.
Okay.
So it's sort of when you, and in the background you see these kind of Native American and Wendigo, Viking Wendigos in the background.
I
near the
really
fire.
like how when you put them together, it makes one image. So that is, I always love that with comic books or anything, any sort
Yeah.
of media you could put together.
It's gimmicky. I'm hoping that when they print and they're together, it looks nice and seamless. But I'm kind of anticipating that the binding on the Indian side might not look as cool. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it comes out all right. I've never done one of those before. So.
And then we have a blank sketch cover commission at $80. So get one of a kind drawing from either Hector or KG Murphy, your choice. And the drawing will be on a blank cover of issue 1. So here's an example as well. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Is this one you did or the one Hector?
I did that one. Yeah, that was a Viking raid at a monastery. so it's sort of before Erik became a Viking. He's with his buddies, and you can see that they are burning a monastery to the ground. There's a couple monks on their knees. Kind of thing.
Yeah, I also have original art commission at $100. So get a commission art piece by Hector Rodriguez or KJ Murphy, your choice. I love this little SpongeBob as Majin Buu, and then Patrick as Majin Buu, and then SpongeBob Super Saiyan. Like,
yeah, that's all. It's all Hector. Yeah, he has these really great ideas, and then he executes them, and then he colors them, and then he makes prints, and he does really well with just that. Actually.
We have a master of the GWP print collection, 120. Get it all. You get everything we've printed in the last 5 years. And there is a whole lot of this. Give us a little bit about Torn, though. So this was the book before Road to Valhalla?
That was sort of the original book, and actually it took place more in modern times. The Road to Valhalla is technically the prequel book because it happens hundreds of years before the Torn book. But yeah, it's a one-shot book. It's about 60 pages about this girl who's in trouble with she's unfortunately connected to this Russian mafia, and then this creature is awoken, and you find out about how he became the creature. So there's a lot of flashbacks to Native American times. He was friends with Native Americans, and then he does them wrong, and he becomes this creature.
It just goes to show you need to make sure you treat your friends good, right? You never know.
Absolutely. Treat your neighbors right, because you never know, you might get cursed.
So at 190, you can get a part in the new book. So your likeness will be featured in a new horror book coming in fall 2022. So is this something that you've been announced yet, or?
I have, amongst our subscribers, I can say it officially here too. We have a book called Yokai that's coming out, issue 0 next year, and it involves Japanese folklore monsters meeting our monsters. So
that's gonna be so awesome, dude.
Talking the Wolfman, you're talking the Frankenstein's monster, and you're talking about Dracula, all in Japan during the end of the samurai era. So they're all there.
So much fun, dude.
They're all there, and the yokai are there. And yokai, if you don't know what that is basically a Japanese monster. They have a lot of their own type of monsters over there. So we're going to introduce that kind of concept, see how that goes.
So for 300, you can own the original cover art. So this is a one of a kind art by artist Hector Rodriguez. This is gorgeous.
Really surprised we haven't sold it already. We've sold the first 2 covers, but this time we've got a few holdouts. I don't know, but every campaign's different, and it's expensive, so some people can't swing it right now. So, but it is still available. Yeah.
And then at 350, you can 3 alternate cover art by KJ Murphy. So own the Road to Valhalla 3 alternative cover.
Yep, I've got that available too.
And then right here is some of the pictures of some of the covers as well. Yeah, this is gorgeous. I love like the little Wendigos hiding in the background.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
And then let's scroll down too. We'll check out some of the interiors as well. Oh, okay. Hold on, some add-ons too. We have a small number of add-ons during the campaign. So give us a little bit about these. Got some holographic covers.
Yep, got some holographic covers. All 3 issues have holographic covers, kind of shiny. There's a print there, which Hector did, and then
here's a close-up of Torn.
That
that's awesome, dude. I love that.
That was Eddie Newell cover, actually. I didn't do that cover. That was Eddie Newell. He did that for me, which is really great. And
some
then we
stickers
have
as well.
My stickers, they're very popular.
I love these. These are so awesome. The little, was that Godzilla?
Yeah, I did a lot of chibi things.
Oh my God, and Stitch as like a as a
Yeah,
Sith.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna need to get my hands on this Boba Fett one. This is too
All right.
good.
Well, I'll send one your way, man.
And then a limited edition Mario tee as well.
Yep,
This is
that's Hector.
awesome.
That's
Yeah, this
actually
is
Hector.
awesome.
That's Hector wearing his shirt. So that is the mastermind behind the art, and we only have 4 of those left. I've already sold one. Got 4
So
left.
let's check out some of these interiors as well for issue number 3.
Yep. So that's Bran in the foreground holding the torch, and that is not Erik. That's Gunn in the bottom, who got gutted in the last issue. And then there's one of the Indians in the background there. Masa is his name. So they're trying to lure the Wendigos into an open area, because if you can see behind Bran up on high, there's all these archers, Indian archers, ready to basically try to end this conflict. That's what they're hoping to do. The problem is there's still 2 Wendigos left. They killed
So are
2.
are they able to be killed by like swords and arrows, or like
arrows not so much, but if you got them the right way, if you cut off their head, if you it's not like a werewolf or vampire thing where they can't be, they can be killed. It's just really hard to kill them one-on-one. You want a team to go in there. You want to have a plan. You don't want to just kind of go into the cave without a plan.
I love how brutal and graphic it is too.
Yeah, that was the thing. We weren't really holding back on the content in terms of the bloodletting and all that stuff. I kind of took it easy on the covers, but the interior pages, you really, if you don't know what you're getting into, then you really shouldn't pick up the book, But occasionally you get somebody who asks, would this be good for my young child? And I'll be like, not really.
No, you want them to have nightmares?
Yeah, basically. So I'm looking at making comics for people that are 18 and up right now, but we do some children's books.
Is this the brother right here though, half human, half indigo?
That is Erik. Yes. So Erik returns in book 3, and he is basically looking to help his brother Bran and try to end this whole thing together, teaming it.
Yeah, this is brutal. I love it too. You guys offer such you offer such a large amount of interiors. Like, you would know if you're gonna like it or not just based off of just scrolling through this.
It's really great because last year we went to a bunch of conventions and we had the first book, and everybody they saw the Viking banner, they saw the monsters, and I didn't have to do a hard sell or anything. They just either liked it immediately or like, not for me. So most people would just gravitate towards it like a moth to a flame and say, yes, I want this, or they would go, no, it's too not my thing or whatever. But yeah, a lot of people seem to like it.
So let's finish up by going through the creative team once again. We have the man of the hour, KG Murphey, artist and creator. Underneath you we have the writer. So give us a little bit more about him.
John's one of my best friends, and I've known him since the early 2000s. He's a fantastic writer, martial artist, and he's got a lot. You're going to hear his name again. He's really an artist's dream to work with. He really is great. He's a very visual guy. He lives only 30 minutes from me, so we get together in real time, and he has a writer. We sit in his writer's room usually. He can't come to my place because he's allergic to my dogs. But but sometimes we just go out and we throw axes together. Him, me, and Hector. We'll not even talk about comics really. We'll just get together and eat pizza or go out and to a movie or do something else other than comics. So John's a great guy.
And then we have Sean Lee.
Sean Lee, I was introduced to through Hector, so he's one of Hector's main. Hector really loves, Sean's colors, and so he almost uses Sean exclusively now. So that's how I met Sean, and Sean did a piece for me, and he did an amazing job on one of my pieces. So then I just naturally asked Sean if he was interested in doing book 2, and he said yes. And that Sean, he teaches at an art school where he's from as well, so he's really proficient in digital coloring. He's a good artist, really good artist.
That's awesome.
Really good with lights and colors and textures. And Mindy is someone I knew from the CAG days, and she wanted to get something going too. Her and her husband Erik, they're really great people, and I've known them a long time. And Mindy has worked for a lot of comic book companies now, and she's always working on the She series with Billy Tucci, and so she's busy. But she makes time for me because we got history. So she'll just if I need something quick, she'll make the time for me. Which is really
right here. She also works extensively at Horizon Line and Advent Comics. I know Advent Comics, so that's cool. Small world.
Yeah, yeah, it is. When you're an independent, you have to kind of look at a small pond. Yeah.
And we have Hector as well. So this is the cover artist.
Yeah, Hector really, I think when he draws something, it's very inspiring. And thankfully, I don't know what made me think of this. In a way to include Hector in a way, because Hector has got his own thing going on. He doesn't really need to do comics as much, but he still does. Hell's Blood, which is a great series, supernatural series, thriller. But yeah, I was really thankful. I don't know why. I was like, can you do one of the covers? Because I was thinking I was going to do a cover, and he did an amazing cover. And I was like, well, this is perfect. I don't need another cover. And then, of course, after that was over, he was like, well, what are we doing for the next cover? And he said he was all in for the next cover. And I was like, cool. So he did the next cover, and then I thought, all right, I got 2 covers from him. That's the end of it, right? But then before even the 3rd book was getting produced, he sent me like 5 or 6 images saying, all right, pick one, or, and they were all finished, and I was like, well, crap, I can raffle these off. I can sell
I can only pick one. Like, come on.
So I ended up picking the one that you see for book 3 as the actual image. I just like that one the best. But yeah, I've been very lucky to have some really talented people in my life, and it was by design. I just said, look, I want to get something going. I want to do something with other people, and who's in? And at the time, I had like all these people come forward and say, yeah, I want to do something. And Hector was one of those guys.
No, absolutely. For everyone watching right here is the link to check this out once again. Such an awesome book. If you can't back, just simply sharing it on Twitter, Facebook. Word of mouth is 100% free. We have CM Holy over on Twitch. Glad I didn't miss the best indie comic show on the web. You're too much, Chris. Thank you. So KJ, after going through that Kickstarter and kind of looking at all the rewards and the add-ons, what would you like to say to anyone who might be on the fence about backing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. How do you get people that are sitting on the sidelines in? And, all I could say is, honestly, we're not going anywhere. So even if you don't back this one, I'm going to have another book in the future. And hopefully, if you see this and then you kind of go, oh, I'm going to remember these guys, and you see something else. I'm a firm believer in planting a seed in the ground and watering it. And, we're very approachable. We're very engageable. You can see us at shows. Come on over. Say you saw us online. You don't have to buy anything. You can just hang out. And, Hector and I are good like that, but, on this project specifically, this is the only time I'm fundraising all 3 books together. This is going to be the last time we're doing these individual issues. I'm not printing a lot. I'm printing enough for the shows, and then we're probably gonna do a trade. And so if you really are into collecting original print runs, then this is the time to get on this. And or any of the other wonderful rewards. Christmas is around the corner. If you're into Christmas and you want to buy an original piece of art, Hector and I can bang it out well before Christmas as a gift. We do portraits. We can do something for you, for your book. If you have a book you want concept art done for, Hector or myself are more than happy to help.
That is awesome. That is, man. And you are so close, literally like $64 away from completely funding.
It's so silly. It really, like 3 or 4 days now, I've looked at it kind of going, why are we still hovering under goal? As soon as we meet our stretch goal, everyone's getting all the physical backers are getting a coffee coaster, like a little insignia coaster. And then we've already unlocked the art book. So I'm doing a drawing in a day, and all those drawings are going to get compiled into a digital art book that everyone's getting as a thank you for backing this campaign called Halloween Dreams. I'm calling it. So yeah.
No, I love it. Hey, before we end the podcast completely, though, I always love asking one question in particular, because as much as this is a show where we really focus on you and your book, it's a nice platform for anyone who might be new to the industry. So for anyone out there who is getting started with even just writing or the art, and they're having trouble just getting going, what type of advice would you offer them just to get motivated, just to get started?
Yeah, honestly, it really helps if you just put a time in your schedule, basically, whether it's your lunch hour or it's in the evening, or start, whenever your best time, optimal time to be creative is, put it and commit to it, even if you're not feeling it. Like if you're a writer, write anything. It doesn't matter if it's going to be a novel or not. Just put out the ideas, write something. If you're an artist, do some sketches, work on that character you want to develop, and you keep at it. Being consistent with something, don't just do it once and kind of throw it away and give up on it, and bounce it around to other people and see, put it online, say, what do people think? Do they like, the direction of this story or this character or whatever? And if you're in the right communities, you'll get feedback, and then that's inspiring. And that's how I kept continuing my journey. I would show stuff to other people and ask them what they thought, and they would give me feedback. And sometimes it was undesirable feedback, and other times I'd be like, yeah, you're right, this sucks. And other times I'd be like, okay, well, this is maybe worth holding on to. Maybe I just need to polish this gem a little bit more until it's really ready. And when you have something you want to commit to, and it's sometimes, being a creative person, it's kind of a long path, and sometimes you have to be alone on the path for a while until you find the right people to connect with, and then feel like you're on a journey with somebody doing it together.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for that piece of advice. That is so awesome, KJ. Thank you for stopping by, breaking this down with us. Yeah. This was such an awesome podcast. I appreciate it. Everyone watching, I hope you all have an awesome Thursday. It is the day after New Comic Book Day. Check out this Kickstarter. Like I said, if you can't back, simply sharing it on Facebook and Twitter is 100% free, and it is going to help get as many eyes on this project as possible. With that being said, have an awesome day, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.